Well, today, of course, first, he lied. That was Donald Trump's very first choice today when confronted with his own words from as long ago as last week about releasing the video of the second missile strike on what was left of a tiny open boat in the Caribbean, more than 1,500 miles away from the United States. The second missile fired at two men clinging to what was left of the wreckage of that small boat killed them, bringing the total death count from that two-missile strike on that little boat to 11. The firing of the second missile has been described as, quote, just murder, end quote, by NYU law professor Ryan Goodman, who is also a former Pentagon lawyer. Last week, Donald Trump said, quote, whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem. Those were his exact words about the video of the second missile strike that killed those two people clinging to the wreckage. The missile strike that Ryan Goodman says is just murder. And when presented with his exact words today, the first words out of Donald Trump's mouth were, I didn't say that. And of course, he was lying. That was pathological liar Donald Trump, who the Washington Post recorded telling 30,573 lies during his first presidency, lying once again, this time to Rachel Scott of ABC News. And America is lucky tonight that Rachel Scott is in the White House press corps. Last year, she won an award from the Washington Association of Black Journalists, and of course, Donald Trump hates her and lies about her, as he did today.
Mr. President, you said that you would have Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says.
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
You said that you would have no problem releasing the full bit. Okay, well, Secretary Hegseth.
No, whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
That's how you do it. That's how every reporter should do it with Donald Trump. Donald Trump said to Rachel Scott, I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news. To which Rachel Scott said, you said that. You said that you would have no problem releasing the full video. And that's how you do it. You don't let him get away with his lie. And what did Donald Trump do when Rachel Scott did not let him get away with his lie? He gave up. He just had one round of lying in him. He gave up. And he changed his story to, whatever Hegseth wants to do is okay with me. He changed his story to that. But Rachel Scott wasn't finished.
He now says it's under review. Are you ordering the secretary to release that full video?
Whatever he decides is okay with me.
So that's the new Trump story. It's not totally up to Pete Hegseth. We know that's a lie. We know that nothing is up to Pete Hegseth. We know that Donald Trump will order Pete Hegseth to release the video, or Donald Trump will order Pete Hegseth, as he obviously is now ordering him, to not release the video, because Donald Trump believes the video looks like murder. That's the reason not to release it. And that would be the only reason Donald Trump would not allow the release of that video. That's it. That's the only reason. Donald Trump wants us to see all his other videos of killing people in those boats, but not this one, because he thinks whatever it is just too bad for us to see. Rachel Scott still wasn't finished. And Rachel Scott knows who is really in control of that video.
Are you committing to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was up to Secretary Hegseth.
You're the most obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, actually a terrible reporter, and it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
If you are a member of the White House press corps and Donald Trump has not told you that you are a terrible reporter, then you are not doing your job. If you are a member of the White House press corps and Donald Trump has not told you you are the most obnoxious reporter in the whole place, then you are not doing your job. You are failing. Last Thursday on this program, Senator Mark Warner told us that he believed that the two men were incapacitated when they were killed by the second missile. Senator Warner is one of the members of Congress who has actually seen the video. Reporters have been piecing together accounts of what is on that video from different people who have seen the video and other sources, and some of those accounts indicate the military justification for killing those two people, who Senator Warner says were incapacitated, is that they could have been trying to signal drug traffickers to rescue them. The New York Times reports there were no other unknown aircraft or boats in visual range, according to officials who attended classified sessions on Thursday in which military officers briefed lawmakers. The military officers said the survivors could have been trying to beckon to other alleged drug traffickers in a plane or boat to come get them, communications that could have justified the follow-up strike that killed them. First of all, no plane could come get them in the middle of the ocean. Second, the military knows exactly what other aircraft were within miles of that airspace at that time. They didn't have to rely about what could be seen by the human eye. The military knows exactly what vessels were in sight of the attack the entire time. Even recreational small boats have radar that is good enough to tell them every single thing that is floating in the water for miles around them. And military radar for water surface and for aircraft is beyond anything in possession of the private sector. If the military could claim tonight that there was a single floating anything within miles of that attack, they would claim it, and they would have the evidence to claim it, including radar evidence. The military would not leave Admiral Frank Bradley out there without the protection of the evidence that they collected as a reason to kill those two men, to order the killing of those two men, as Admiral Bradley says he did. It's not guesswork about whether there was some aircraft that they could have signaled that was not an American military aircraft. What kind of aircraft are they imagining that could have gone out there in the middle of the ocean to save those two people clinging to the wreckage? The only aircraft that can do that is a Coast Guard helicopter. So unless the military comes forward and says, here's our proof of other boats within range that could have come and picked up those two men, no one should believe that was in any way possible. If it was possible, they have tracking evidence showing exactly what that vessel was that was in range of those two men. And if there are other boats anywhere in that ocean that they suspected might go pick up those men, why wouldn't they have sent a missile down at that boat that they suspect of doing that? They don't need much provocation to send these missiles down there. The military cover-up that is going on right now depends on people not thinking. It depends on people knowing nothing about boats on the ocean, knowing nothing about radar, knowing nothing about military technology in a situation like this. The military cover-up that is going on right now depends on people having no idea where those boats are at sea, thousands of miles away from the United States, without the fuel capacity or the engine capacity to get there. These are outboard motors on these boats. And they're supposed to be filled with drugs, so they can't be filled with fuel. Boats that size would have to be filled with fuel, and they still wouldn't be able to make it all the way to the United States. So they would have to have transit points in the islands, in the chain of islands, all the way up the Caribbean. Why wouldn't you find those transit points and grab them there? Why wouldn't you choke off those transit points? Donald Trump's claims that those drugs were headed for America depend on people knowing absolutely nothing about the capacity of those small outboard engine vessels, small boats that do not have that kind of range. And they can't make it from the Southern Caribbean or from the Pacific in some instances. They can't make it up to this country. And the only reason this kind of speculation is going on in the news media about what those men might or might not have been doing as they were about to drown is that Donald Trump is hiding the video. Donald Trump has shown you videos of plenty of attacks the American military has launched against defenseless small boats, none of which were actually headed to the United States at that time. Donald Trump has shown us videos of Pete Hegseth and him killing people in the Caribbean. But they have one video of one missile of them killing just 2 people that they absolutely do not want us to see. And that is a cover-up by their own terms of this public engagement. Because in the Trump-Hegseth terms of this public engagement, this kind of killing in the Caribbean will be televised. They want us to see it. They want us to be as bloodthirsty as they are. They want us to enjoy it the way they enjoy it. They so obviously enjoy it. And for Donald Trump, the more people he can kill in the Caribbean, the more attention he can divert from the Epstein files. But he doesn't want to divert attention, apparently, with that one video of the killing of those 2 men. But every other video of them killing everyone else in the Caribbean, that's okay. The more attention he can divert from what's happening to the cost of living in America, and especially the cost of health insurance. That's what these videos are about for him. That's what they have been about for him. Health insurance that is going to skyrocket out of reach for people who depend on tax credits in the Affordable Care Act. Today, Donald Trump revealed once again that there is no Trump health care plan and there is no Republican plan.
On healthcare, Mr. President, 22 million Americans are expected to see their healthcare insurance premiums start to rise by the beginning of next year.
You're talking about because Obamacare is so bad?
Yes, well, sure, because the Obamacare subsidies are expiring. Are you going to do any?
Because Obamacare is so bad.
What is the Republican plan? Are you going to let that happen on your watch?
What I'm going to do is, if the Democrats go along with it, which they don't want to because they want to make the insurance companies very rich, okay? I want the money to be paid to the people to go out and buy their own health care instead of paying to the insurance companies. Their stock has gone up 1,700% in a short period of time.
Leading off our discussion tonight is Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia. He's a member of the Intelligence, Appropriations, and Rules Committees. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Georgians now are facing an increased cost in health care exclusively because of Donald Trump's choice to not extend these tax credits. What are Georgians telling you about what they need from Washington now?
Good evening, Lawrence, and thank you for having me. And let's just think about this in terms of the real human impact. Let me tell you a story I heard from a constituent this week. She's in her early 60s. She waits tables for a living, and she has breast cancer. She's in the middle of chemotherapy. She needs chemo just about monthly. And because her premiums are about to go up to $500, she tells me she's going to have to go without health insurance. In the middle of chemotherapy, this is a breast cancer patient I represent. What are people supposed to do? These Republican senators who walk through the gilded halls of Congress and treat this like a game, completely oblivious to the fact that this is life or death for our constituents. They have an opportunity this week to join us in extending these tax credits. They just spent trillions of dollars on tax cuts for the rich while they were slashing Medicaid. But they're all tied up in knots on this fundamental moral question, whether people should be able to afford the health care they need. So we'll take this vote later this week, and it remains my hope that some Republicans will cross the aisle and do the right thing for our constituents, for my constituents in Georgia who face 100, 200, 300% increases in their health insurance premiums.
You know, one of the things about a vote like this in the Senate historically has been if you think it's not going to pass the House of Representatives, it's kind of a free vote. You know, you as a Republican senator, you can just vote for it and don't worry about having to deal with whether or not it becomes law because it won't get anywhere in the House. And so I'm wondering to what extent some Republican senators might see it that way, might join you, and you might be able to get this thing through the Senate and sent to the House, where then a new pressure campaign would take place.
We will see very soon, and they'll have to go on record This is so much deeper than the politics. And what does it say about the moral condition of this Congress that the thing that has them all tied up in knots is a very simple question? Should people's health insurance premiums go up, double, or triple? This is a policy choice. This is something that we as senators have the power to prevent by casting a vote. This is something members of the House have the power to prevent by casting a vote. They don't have to throw my constituent with breast cancer off of her health insurance in the middle of chemotherapy. They don't have to throw 500,000 Georgians and millions of Americans off of their health insurance. They don't have to make life even more unaffordable for all of those Americans who are already paying more for groceries because of these tariffs, or who are losing their jobs because small businesses are in crisis. This is a policy choice, and it is such a straightforward moral question. So, do I believe that enough Republicans will join us to advance this through the Senate? I can't say right now that I'm optimistic, but rest assured that every conversation I can have between now and those votes with those Republican colleagues, I'll be telling the stories of my constituents who stand to lose so much, who stand to lose financial security, and who potentially stand to lose their lives.
Do the constituents of these Republican senators have to come to Washington as they did when many of these same Republicans were trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act and just repeal Obamacare and just take it right off the books? They were flooded with constituents at that time. And is that the only way to get them to try to find their way to the right vote here?
So far, nothing is breaking through. And this is something that 75–80% of the American people support. You know, this isn't politically controversial among regular people. The American people, Democrats, independents, Republicans, are against health insurance premiums doubling or tripling. But there's something about the Affordable Care Act that ties the GOP up in knots. They can't see the human dimension. They can't see my constituent with breast cancer. They can't see their own constituents who face health crises and financial crises. They're blinded by politics, and it is ordinary people who are going to suffer as a result.
Senator John Ossoff, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Lawrence.
And coming up, Donald Trump has issued more pardons to more drug dealers than any president in history. Donald Trump is the drug dealers' favorite president by far. That's next with Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. No president in history has been more friendly to drug dealers than Donald Trump. Only Donald Trump has pardoned high-level drug dealers, including the biggest drug trafficker ever convicted in the United States, the former president of Honduras. But at the same time, Donald Trump wants to kill the lowest-ranking people in drug trafficking anywhere in the world, men on small boats who might or might not be trafficking drugs from South America, thousands of miles from the United States. Donald Trump will kill them without a trial, and he will release giant drug dealers after they've been convicted in unanimous verdicts returned by American juries right here in the United States. The president of Honduras was convicted of drug charges in the United States and sentenced to 45 years in prison. That's how seriously the judge and the jury considered the charges against the former president of Honduras. And Donald Trump, not knowing one word about the evidence in that case, issued a full pardon to the former president of Honduras, the biggest drug dealer ever convicted in the United States. According to Washington Post analysis, Donald Trump has pardoned or granted clemency to at least 10 people for drug-related crimes since the beginning of his second term, and granted pardons or commutations to almost 90 others for drug-related crimes during the 4 years of his first term, the analysis showed. And Donald Trump's own Attorney General, Pam Bondi, told the Supreme Court last year that military service members are required not to follow illegal orders. The New York Times reports that in a friend of the court brief last year, Pam Bondi, then working as an attorney for a conservative think tank, wrote, military officers are trained not to carry out unlawful orders, and they know they may be held criminally liable if they did carry out such orders. The military would not carry out a patently unlawful order from the president to kill non-military targets. Indeed, service members are required not to do so. And today, Donald Trump's former defense attorney, Alina Habba, resigned as United States Attorney for New Jersey a week after the Third Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals upheld a ruling disqualifying her from holding that office. She's the second Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to be disqualified after Lindsay Halligan was removed from her position in the Eastern District of Virginia. And joining us now is Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And Senator, we have Donald Trump, who wants to kill anyone moving in a small boat that might or might not have drugs in it thousands of miles away. But if you're the president of Honduras and you're sentenced to 45 years by a judge after conviction by a jury in this country, Donald Trump is the president and the only one in history who will let you go completely free for that.
Yep, 400 tons worth minimum of cocaine that this narco state leader was convicted of bringing into the United States as basically the guy who used his position as president to give cover to the drug dealers. And he got a pardon. And I just, I don't think we know the whole story yet. You get people like Roger Stone and Matt Gaetz involved in asking for pardons, and somewhere some money changed hands. So we'll find out, I guess, sooner or later, but it sure doesn't look good. The other thing that's interesting about this is that creepy guy in the Justice Department who told everybody that they needed to be ready to tell judges, F off, we're not going to follow your orders, and who Trump and his little team stuffed onto the Third Circuit Court of Appeals during the window while the contempt hearing against that guy was stayed by 2 Trump judges. That guy was on the prosecution of President Hernandez. So he can't really say that this was a bad Biden prosecution, that the fix was in some bad way against Hernandez. The guy that is his sort of chief thug in the early days of the MAGA DOJ, and who he loved so much, he put him on the Circuit Court of Appeals. Of course, not one Democrat would vote for this guy, but they shoved him through. That guy was on the case. So there's really no logic to it on the merits, which takes you back to, where did the money change hands? What was the deal behind the scenes that we're seeing thanks to, presidential immunity, and he gets to commit crimes for free?
Yeah, Emil Bove has the distinction of being one of Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyers after being one of the prosecutors who got that conviction against the former president of Honduras. And here's Pam Bondi last year as a private citizen telling the Supreme Court that a president who gives an order to kill unarmed people somewhere, non-combatants outside of war, that's clearly illegal, and no one in the military would follow an order like that ever.
Yeah, no cry of sedition against her for saying the exact same thing that Mark Kelly and others did. And it calls to mind the fact that they've just dug out that 2 of Trump's mortgages had the exact same statement that he planned to live in them as his principal residence, and he never did. And there were 2, so they can't both be a principal residence. So, here are 2 examples of, well, if it's a Democrat doing it, then it's a really big deal. We're going to accuse them of sedition. We're going to talk about hanging them. We're going to put up fake prosecutions against them. But when it's me or my MAGA Attorney General Pam Bondi, then you just whistle past it as if it weren't real. It's just bonkers. The thing that they forget is the judges read the newspapers. And the more this president and this attorney general and this Department of Justice look like the gangster gong show, the less cred they will have with courts. And that is not a good place for the Department of Justice to be.
Senator, as you know, Kash Patel has a new entry in the Gangster Gong Show. I'd like to get to that with you right after the commercial break that we want to squeeze in right here. We'll be right back with Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. MS Now's Ken Delaney and Carol Leonnig have new reporting on FBI Director Kashyap Patel. According to three sources, Patel has on more than one occasion ordered that the security detail protecting his girlfriend escort one of her allegedly inebriated friends home after a night of partying in Nashville. Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, asked FBI agents on her security team at least 2 times, including once this spring, to drive her friend home, and agents objected to diverting from their assignment, said the sources, who were granted anonymity to discuss non-public matters. But Patel insisted they do as Wilkins requested, and in one case called the leader of Wilkins' security detail and yelled at him to do so. FBI spokesperson Ben Williamson broadly disputed that such events took place. This is made up and did not happen, Williamson said. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is back with us. And Senator, these are FBI agents. These are people who are supposed to be tracking counterterrorism. These are people who are supposed to be working on serious criminal investigations. And this is what Kashyap Patel has them doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a serious person and are capable of doing the job of director of the FBI, then what you pay attention to is doing your job and doing your best and protecting the American public from crime and terrorism and all of that. If you're not that, if you're a clown who knows you're no good at the job, then it's all about cosplay and dress up. And where's my raid jacket that has to be just the right one for me so that everybody can see me in my FBI raid jacket. And then it is play with the toys, fly around with my girlfriend in the FBI jet, make my security detail drive her drunk friends home. And it's a signal of how these people approach their jobs. They're not serious people. This is their chance to basically play at being the FBI director, and they're distracted by the toys and the fun and games of it all because fundamentally they're not up to doing the real job.
There is this kind of madness all over this administration, from Robert Kennedy Jr. to Pete Hegseth to the FBI director. It is just all over it. And I feel like every once in a while we have to remind the kids out there that you get fired for this kind of stuff in any other version of Washington life. And in any other version of Washington life, no one even dreams of using one of the government jets for dates with the girlfriend. And no one even dreams of having FBI agents take girlfriends, drunk friends home. Like, that couldn't cross their minds.
Nope, and there would be real sanctions. But in this case, it's like they've all come to a giant costume party in which they get to play act at the roles of really important jobs. And they get to have the security details and the guy with the thing in his ear and the black limos and the fancy office and people calling them Mr. Secretary or Mr. Director, and the jets and the whole thing. And that's what it's about for them. Because for them, the job is fundamentally not serious. It's suck up to Trump, so you get to keep the job, so you get all the play clothes and the play toys to play around with. But it's not about doing the job for the American people in a serious or effective way.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
And coming up, what Marjorie Taylor Greene says Donald Trump actually told her when she tried to talk to him about the 14-year-old girls who were raped by Jeffrey Epstein. That's next with Congressman Ro Khanna. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced that she is not running for re-election and will actually resign the House of Representatives in January because she does not want to be reelected into what she is absolutely sure will be the powerless Republican minority in the next Congress. And she did not want to be in a position then of defending Donald Trump against impeachment in the next Congress. So that's what one Republican member of Congress thinks. The Republicans are going to lose the House, Democrats are going to win the House, and Donald Trump is going to be impeached next year. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks. Last night on 60 Minutes, she explained that her break with Donald Trump is all about the Epstein files.
We did talk about the Epstein files, and he was extremely angry at me that I had signed the discharge petition to release the files. I fully believe that those women deserve everything they're asking. They're asking for all of it to come out. They deserve it. And he was furious with me.
What did he say?
He said that it was going to hurt people. I had asked him, these women are the ones that were hurt. They were raped at 14. They were raped at 16. I watched them stand in front of the press, trembling, their bodies shaking as they were telling their stories, many of them for the first time. And I had told him, I said, you know, you have all kinds of people come in the White House. Have these women come in the White House. These women deserve to be heard.
He said to you, people will get hurt.
People will get hurt. I don't know what that means. I don't know who they are. After President Trump called me a traitor, I got a pipe bomb threat on my house, and then I got several direct death threats on my son.
On your son?
On my son.
Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna of California. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee. And so one of the most important things we heard there is a Republican member of the House of Representatives linking Donald Trump to threats of death and violence if you're publicly criticized by Donald Trump. Other people have been saying this for years. Other people have experienced it for years. This is from Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is her saying, this is why I got those threats. This is why my son has been threatened.
It's one of the reasons people don't speak out against Donald Trump.
That's another point she was adding in that interview, yes, that other Republicans are afraid of exactly that.
And people sometimes don't believe it. It's not just that they think there's going to be political death. They actually are fearful for their lives, especially the people who voted for impeachment the first time. Look, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I've gotten to know her over the last 5 months. And anyone watching that interview knows that when she's talking about the survivors, she is sincere. I saw her. I saw her almost in tears. Anyone listening to those survivors. And she would say to me, you know, Ro, the president is going to come around. I just think that the president is going to be fine. We're not making this about Donald Trump. I think she was actually surprised that Trump was who he is, and that over this issue, he was willing to abandon her.
Yeah, and you have gotten to know her. This is something that no one saw coming, that she would be the one. She would be the one leading the Republican move to your side, which ultimately included all of them, the way you brilliantly handled this thing. And what have you, people were watching that last night, they're seeing different parts of it. She gets combative and fights with Leslie Stahl and other parts. You see more than one version of that person in front of us last night. What do you think, in terms of the Epstein files, is the way we should think about Marjorie Taylor Greene?
And she's a person of courage. I mean, look, Lawrence, people are complex. There are parts of Marjorie Taylor Greene that I strongly disagree with. But she acted honorably at every instance when it comes to these survivors. And she was moved by the survivors. And it's no doubt in my mind that she was not calculating something about what am I going to run or on the future. She was moved. I mean, you cannot hear these survivors and not be affected. The only person I know who wasn't affected after hearing this was Speaker Johnson. I mean, most people, Nancy Mace and Marjorie Taylor Greene, after hearing them, said, this is outrageous what has happened.
So the law you passed through that discharge petition that Marjorie Taylor Greene helped you get through the House is now being cited by federal judge. Federal judge in Florida says, I am releasing grand jury transcripts, which we don't normally do, but I'm doing it because the law that you passed requires him to do it.
For any young person watching, this is why you want to go into politics. Sometimes it actually matters being in Congress. The law that we passed with Thomas Massie says you have to release the files. A Trump-appointed judge who said he wasn't releasing the files is now releasing the files. And Lawrence, I have to say this anytime I come to your set, we would not have achieved this law if it weren't for me being on your show, because your producer, who booked Bradley Edwards, he introduced us to the survivors, and the credit goes to those survivors. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't get off the discharge petition. That's why Nancy Mace didn't. So sometimes journalism and people in Congress actually can make a difference.
Yeah, you were on the program immediately after the lawyer told us in that segment that if you subpoena the Epstein estate, you'll actually be able to get a lot of this material. You heard that idea and you took it to Congress, and here we are. So the clock is running. How much time does the Attorney General have to hand over these files?
December 19th is when the files have to come out. Now we see that judges are listening to Congress, and the question is, where will Pam Bondi be? Will she actually follow the law? And there are a lot of people who work for her who need to follow the law. But Massie and I are not going to quit. I mean, we will get some release, and then we're going to continue to push to make sure that we get the full release. It's about the survivors.
So does that mean you are expecting that Donald Trump will not release all of the Epstein files?
That's probably, if I was a betting person, my expectation. Look, I'm not counting on Donald Trump obeying the law. I do think we will get a release. I think the fact that the judge has ordered some of these files to be released, we'll get something. But we need to be vigilant. We need to continue to push till we get everything.
As the committee gets more material, how are the decisions made about what gets released? Like, we got those photographs last week of the island. And what is the decision-making process that goes into those releases?
On the Democratic side, we want to get as much released as fast as possible. We want to get it out there. What we want to make sure, though, is that it's comprehensive and that there's some explanation. So when it comes to the financial issues, we want our lawyers to go through that and then release it. But our goal is to release all of it so people get to see.
And as we go forward, is there anything that you expect to be released before December 19th?
We don't know with Pam Bondi when she's going to release things. I think that there is likely going to be one more release of the Oversight Committee documents, but the big release is going to be the December 19th release. She can release at any time beforehand. Yeah. We'll see what they release. But look, what people want to know is who were these men who either trafficked in women or actually raped underage girls. And when you have Thomas Massie saying this, when you have the survivors saying this, when you have Marjorie Taylor Greene saying this, when you have me saying this, when you have the entire Congress voting for it, the entire Senate voting for it, you know that there is something hideous in there, that the country needs a moral reckoning. And I just hope that they follow the law, because this is not going away. You're not going to make it go away. I'm not going to make it go away. This is personal to me, having met those survivors. We are going to continue to fight till the law is fully complied with.
Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Tonight's last word is next. I am way behind on my Christmas shopping this season, having gotten, I believe, exactly 0 gifts so far, but I have a magic solution: the Kind Fund, the partnership that I created with UNICEF to provide desks to school in Malawi, where some of the kids have never seen desks, and to provide scholarships for girls to attend high school in Malawi, where public high school is not free, and the girls' graduation rate from high school is half the boys' graduation rate. You can contribute any amount at lastworddesks.ms now, or you can make a contribution in the name of anyone on your holiday gift list, and UNICEF will send them an acknowledgement of your gift. That is tonight's last word.